But I'm also going to bring in Scott Snyder, who's a senior fellow for Korea Studies and director of the program on U.S.-Korean policy. Scott, do I have you with me?
Yes, I'm here.
So, Scott, I want to get your take. You know, right now, South Korean intelligence has detected activity at North Koreans, one of their missile facilities, that could be consistent with another test launch. We saw that last week. That was reported by South Korea's news agency. How do you think President Trump would respond if Kim Jong-un were to make some sort of a provocative action while this trip is taking place and while the president's there in South Korea?
Well, I agree with Gordon that there is the possibility that there could be some kind of demonstration by North Korea in the form of probably a short-range missile test. And I think that President Trump has already indicated during his stop in Japan that he feels that his rhetorical focus on North Korea and his stepping up of the pressure on Kim Jong-un is working. And so I think that it's entirely plausible to imagine that he would continue that rhetorical focus on Kim Jong-un as part of the Trump administration's strategy for trying to pressure North Korea into changing direction.
And now we're seeing the president's motorcade arrive there at the Blue House. We see lots of people there standing and celebrating as the president is arriving there to visit with the president of South Korea. Also, First Lady Melania Trump will be there as well. They will both be visiting with the president of South Korea as well as his First Lady, and they'll be involved in both a bilateral conversation, and they will also be spending some time walking around the grounds, having tea. Gordon, I want to go back to you. How do you expect the president to respond if there's a provocative action by North Korea as he is visiting this trip? He's promised fire and fury in the past. What would you think the president would respond with?
Yeah, I agree with Scott. I think that there will be a rhetorical flourish, but I don't expect anything else. You know, President Trump has had a pretty persistent campaign of cutting off money to North Korea. And this has started in early spring. It especially continued with the September 21 executive order, which actually is quite strict, a monumental step forward. And we're starting to hear rumors that it's working. Lower-level officials in Pyongyang are not getting rations, according to one unconfirmed report. If that is indeed true, it's quite stark because officials in Pyongyang, even the junior ones, are for the favored class in North Korea and have always been protected. So President Trump's campaign could actually push North Korea in a much better direction. So my sense is that we'll hear President Trump, if there's a provocation, President Trump will say something, but probably won't change the overall direction of what he's doing. And that strangulation campaign can be very, very effective.
Speaking of the strangulation campaign, Scott, you know, what do you think needs to happen in this conversation with the president, with President Trump and President Moon?
Well, it's very important for the two leaders to be on the same page. And I know that Gordon spoke about this a little bit earlier. I think that the biggest gap between President Moon and President Trump is really over South Korean concern about premature use of military force. It is true that obviously President Moon and his country, they're in the firing line for any retaliation. It's natural that the South Koreans would want to make sure that every alternative option has been exhausted before we get to the military option. And so I think that that is a potential point of difference between President Moon and President Trump. The America First idea, I think, for an ally on the front line like President Moon is one that contains a bit of an edge. Also, I just want to say that I thought that Gordon's description of where South Korea is in the relationship with China a little bit overstated, although there is ambiguity about these three no's that have come up. My understanding is that the South Korean government did pre-consult on those issues with the United States. There are risks related to this idea of balanced diplomacy that President Moon is interested in, but the bottom line is that the South Korean president has no choice but to be a pragmatist on issues involving the critical issue of South Korean security.